So, you pick up your guitar, you noodle around for a while, and you stumble upon what sounds like a really cool riff. Hey, it might even be part of a song that you could write. You play it forever, you decide that you actually do like it, and then what? You think, well, what comes next? Every guitar player has sat down, gone through this process, and ran into the same issue of what next. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly what I do to help me get out of that rut, and in fact, maybe never get in that rut in the first place. So let's take a look at a scenario. Let's say you came up with a riff. I'm just going to make one up here. Let's say you just came up with that, and you're thinking, that's kind of cool, I like that, and you play it for a while, and you decide that, yes, in fact, this is going to stick, this is something I like. And then that feeling of, now what, kicks in. Most players, what do? They try doing the same thing they did for the last riff. They continue noodling and just wandering around aimlessly, and they wait for something to land. Well, here's something that you can do to never have to wait, where you never have to just sit there and wait for the weather to be right and the ether to engage with your subconscious. There is a very simple thing you can do. What you do is you take a look at the riff you just came up with and try to characterize it in some way. And what I mean by characterize it, I mean, if you were to describe the riff to somebody, what would you say? Well, if I took that riff, I might say, well, it's fairly busy. It's 16th note based to the beat, ba ba da 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 ba ba. Right? There's a little bit of syncopation in there, but overall, I would characterize it as being fairly busy, fairly notey, for lack of a better word. The one thing that I keep in mind when I come up with a riff like that is I think the next part should not be that. It should not be busy, maybe not so syncopated. What I look for is one word to help me to find this new part, and that word is balance. If the part you just came up with is fairly busy and notey like that, the next part should not be that. Look for the balance. Well, I might be able to play something that rings more. Maybe the next part should have more ringing chords. Maybe the next part would be a verse, so to speak, so the singer may need some room to sing over it, and you might want chords that ring more. Maybe something like, let's see. Right? That's quite contrasting to the previous part. And therefore, you've got a balance between something busy and notey, something more chill and ringing. And what this does for the listener is it doesn't burn their ears out. If everything is all the time, I mean, it can be cool from time to time to be just like full blast on something, but most listeners, their ears start to tire. They start to get numb where they're like, okay, all right, this is all kind of starting to sound the same. Let's try putting these two ideas together and see what you think. Right? You hear the difference. And it makes it more of a texture change. Both parts are in the same key. They're both in the key of E. I'm using similar chords for some of it. I'm just using different variations of it. The main thing, though, is the texture is different. I'm using a different rhythmic thing. I'm using a balance that helps me to get from one to another and giving the ear a break. Keep in mind, this can happen the other way too. You may start with something that has more of a single note picked. right? If that's the part that you've come up with, well, characterize it again. Go, well, it's kind of straight eighth notes, so rhythmically it's very even. It's muted, so the dynamic is a little lower. It would be meant to be like a kind of a quieter part. Again, maybe a verse or a bridge. Maybe the next part should be more punchy, louder, in your face. Maybe more holes, right? Maybe more space. So if that part is like that, maybe the next part should be right, more aggressive, more space in between chords and notes and things like that. And then again, when you put these two together, you're going to see an obvious progression. You're going to be able to hear the flow, and you'll see where that sense of balance will really come in to help your songwriting. The real takeaway from this is, if you just approach songwriting in I'm going to say a mindless way, where you're not actively trying to think of these things, you're just waiting for something to happen. Just keep in mind, when you noodle on the guitar, in the true sense, you're not doing anything that you have not already practiced. Really. If you think about it, your fingers have done those chords a million times. That little lick you played in between, you've probably played a million times, whether you recognize it or not. You're not really creating anything new. You're just scrambling the letters of the alphabet and hoping that you spell a cool word here and there. So by actively implying something or trying to implement something like the word balance, again, whatever the previous part was, characterize it and come up with something different from that. It doesn't have to be the exact opposite, it just has to be different than it. And then search for that with that in mind. And you'll still be maybe noodling around to find it, but at least you have an aim. At least you know what you're aiming for. And that will produce great results almost every single time. I have a few more ideas for videos on this songwriting topic, which I'm going to be happy to share with you. So check out this approach for yourself. Let me know what you think of it in the comments, and watch for the next one coming soon.